My brother hasn't he been the same person since that October night 4 years ago. He doesn't he go out after dark. He barely talks, and some mornings I come downstairs and find him standing at the kitchen window, staring into the backyard at nothing. His lips moving without making a sound. The doctors have a name for what is wrong with him. I don't believe the doctors. My name is Daniel. I am 32 now. And I am writing this down because I need people to understand what actually happened. Not the version we gave the doctors, not the version we gave my brother as employer when he stopped showing up to work. The real version, the one that started behind TNS Church on a cold Friday night in October. TNS sits at the edge of our small town in rural Connecticut. Built in the late 1700s, stone walls, a graveyard on the south side with headstones that go back to the Revolution. The kind of church that looks beautiful in photographs and deeply unsettling at midnight. Behind the main building, past a rusted iron gate, is a stretch of old woodland the church owns, but never clears. Dense oak trees, a collapsed stone outbuilding that has been rotting since before our parents were born. Growing up, kids dared each other to go in there at night. Nobody ever really did. My brother Ryan, 23 at the time, walked through it as a shortcut home. 11:30, a Friday night, coming back from a bar to streets over. He'd done it in daylight before. He didn't think much of it. He called me at 11:47 p.m. I almost didn't answer. Denny, his voice was barely above a whisper. Don't say anything. Just stay on the line with me. I sat up. Something in his voice made the back of my neck go cold. He told me he was in the hollow, crouched behind the wall of the old outbuilding because he'd seen firelight in the clearing ahead and had stopped before they saw him. There were people there, 8, maybe 10 of them, in dark robes, standing in a circle. A fire burned in the center in a color he struggled to describe. Not orange, not red, wrong, he said. Like the inside of something that was still alive. On the ground at the middle of the circle was a dark shape he couldn't identify. Around it, candles. The figures were chanting, low, rhythmic, in something that was not English and was not any language Ryan had ever heard. Then the chanting stopped all at once. One figure raised both arms. The others dropped to their knees, and then a sound came from that circle that Ryan said he will never be able to fully describe. Not quite a voice, not quite a noise. More like a pressure that pushed outward from inside his own skull and made his vision go white at the edges for a second. That is when one of the robed figures turned and looked directly at him. He ran, dropped his phone. Didn't he stop until he hit our front porch. I was already in the car when the call cut out, and I found him on the doorstep, sitting on the ground, knees pulled to his chest, staring at nothing. His face was, I don't have a better word for it, emptied out, like something had been quietly removed from behind his eyes. The first week, we told ourselves it was shock. By the second week, we knew it wasn't. Ryan stopped sleeping at night. I'd check on him at 3 a.m. and he'd be sitting upright in bed, completely still, eyes open in the dark, not on his phone, not reading, just sitting there like he was waiting for something. He stopped responding to his name the normal way. You would say it and he would turn a few seconds later, slowly, like the sound had to travel a long distance to reach him. He quit his job without telling anyone. One Monday he just didn't show up, and when his boss called the house and Ryan answered, he listened for a moment, put the phone down on the counter, and walked away. Left it off the hook for the rest of the day. He stopped seeing his friends. Stopped texting back, stopped sitting with us at dinner. He'd take his plate to his room and we'd hear nothing from him for hours. Then the writing started. Small symbols, not letters, not any alphabet I recognized. Written in tiny, obsessive rows on the inside of his wardrobe door, along the underside of his windowsill, behind his headboard. Once, in something that wasn't ink, my mom scrubbed it off without saying a word and cried for an hour in the bathroom afterward. He started leaving the house at night. We'd lock the front door and he'd go out the window. We'd find him back in his bed before dawn, shoes muddy, smelling of wood smoke. My mom called his doctor. His doctor said anxiety, post-traumatic stress, prescribed him something. Ryan took the pills for 3 days and stopped. Something is pulling him back to that place, my Aunt Carol said one evening. She said it quietly, like she'd known it for a while and had been waiting for the right moment. You need to call Father Morse. Father Morse was not a regular parish priest. He was 70 years old, retired, and had spent 20 years before his retirement involved in what the diocese quietly called pastoral intervention cases. My aunt had heard his name from a priest in her parish. She called him on a Tuesday. He drove up from Providence on a Thursday, arriving at our house at 6 in the evening with a worn leather bag, a Bible, and the particular calm of a man who has already seen the worst of things and made his peace with it. He spent the first hour just talking to Ryan, sitting across from him in the bedroom, door closed, while the rest of us waited at the kitchen table and didn't he speak. Then, sometime after the second hour, we heard Ryan's voice through the ceiling, fast and desperate, like he was trying to get something out before something stopped him. Then a low, resonating sound that seemed to come from everywhere in the house. At once not a voice, not a word, just a vibration, deep and wrong, that lasted for seconds and stopped. The lights flickered. Our dog went under the couch and wouldn't he come out. Father Morse came downstairs just before midnight. He looked older than when he'd gone up. He sat at the kitchen table and accepted the coffee my mom put in front of him and didn't he speak for a while. There was a thin cut across his left palm that hadn't he been there before. The door is shut now, he said finally. He'll come back to himself. Most of the way, but what he witnessed that night, it looked at him. And when something like that looks at you, it leaves its mark. I've taken the worst of it. Dante asked me what that cost. 6 weeks later, Father Morse had a stroke at his home in Providence. The doctors said it was sudden, unexplained, a catastrophic pressure event in the brain with no prior warning signs. He survived, but he never fully recovered his speech. He lives in a care facility now. My aunt visited him last spring. She said he seemed peaceful. She said he didn't write on the walls. Ryan is better now, most of the way, like Father Morse said. He sleeps, he eats, he'll sit with us and watch a movie on Sunday nights and sometimes he'll laugh. But he won't go out after dark. He moved with us when we relocated to the other side of the county, and he has never once asked to go back. He doesn't talk about what happened, not ever. What I will tell you is this. I went back to N.S. myself the following spring in broad daylight, because I needed to see the hollow with my own eyes. The clearing was empty, the fire basket was gone, but at the center of where that circle must have been, the grass was dead in a perfect ring, 12 feet across, bare dark earth, and nothing had grown back. Not in spring, not in summer. The church's notice board had a typed card pinned to it between the bulletin and the donation envelope. It read, "Rear grounds closed after sundown." This policy has been in effect since 1979, nearly 40 years of whatever was meeting in that clearing. 40 years of a church that knew and put up a card and called it handled the last thing. The thing I haven't told anyone until now. The night Father Morse came downstairs and told us Ryan would be okay, I went up to check on my brother. He was asleep for the first time in weeks, lying on his side, breathing slowly. I stood in the doorway and genuinely felt, relief for the first time in months. I turned to go back downstairs, and as I turned, I caught my own reflection in the dark window at the end of the hallway. It was smiling. I was not smiling. It only lasted a second, and I've told myself every night since then that it was a trick of the light, but I keep my hallway light on now, all night, every night, and I never look at dark windows anymore, not if I can help it. Some things that find you in the dark don't leave when the light comes back on. They just learn to be patient and wait inside the parts of you nobody else can see.